Today I want to talk to you about the fact that you're never alone. You are never alone, really, but you must experience this before you can understand. And what I mean by not being alone is that spirit, soul, God, energy, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, it's always here. It's always with you. And it's always ready to help. But you probably haven't experienced that in such a way, experienced this mystery, if you like, in such a way that it has stuck, or you can understand, or you can be convinced that this is the reality, that you're not alone, really, not alone, but you have to be able to also be in that position where you turn towards it. You turn towards it, towards its ability to help you, to speak to you, and so on. Just recently, just actually today, I was listening to an interview of a soldier fighting on the front line on a war, and he was hit by 2 bullets from behind in his back, just wounded. But he knew that the enemy was close, and if he did lift his head, if he did get up, he'd get shot, he would get killed. And there was a moment of not knowing what to do, and suddenly a voice said, "Get up and run." Now he says the voice wasn't just inside of me. The normal, the usual way that we explain, the inner voice. The inner voice is just inside of you. But he said, no, the voice was outside of me. Something outside of me said this. And he says, I believe, God exists. I believe that, I was helped. In that moment, I was helped. There are many examples in this strange phenomenon, that in the moments of really needing help, in the moments of real strife, something comes through from from the spirit, from the soul, God, whatever you want to call it, and helps you. This is a dream I've had years and years ago, and in this dream I've climbed to top of a building, a high scraper building, and at the rooftop there was a small dwarf with long beard and a pointy kind of hat, dressed in his green baggy brown clothes, and he looked at me and he says, "Your problem is disbelief. Fly, fly, and believe." And I remembered that, yes, I have stopped believing in my own inner voice, in my intuition. And in that moment, I remembered that, yes, I can fly in dreams. So, hesitating a moment or two, I lifted off, and I hovered there. And then I stretched forward, like a Superman. You stretch forward and you fly forward. And there I was, flying above trees, above buildings, above rooftops. And I leaned to the left, I looked to the left, and beside me was flying a female figure, all dressed in white, like she's always come to me in my earliest visions and dreams, in poetry and art. She looked at me, she smiled, and she said, "Marek, there's nothing to be afraid of, for I am always with you, always near you." So this phenomenon, this spirit, this guide, this inner self, whatever you want to call it, it's always there. So you're not alone. You're never alone. I'll read you something that I wrote a few years ago regarding this. This is on my on my page in Facebook. I titled it "For All the Loners Out There." So if you're feeling you're alone, in our Western society, we are being programmed to be alone. We're not allowed to have relationships and talk to each other. We are told to compete with each other. If you're going for an interview, you have to compete with the other person. You're going to school, you always compete against other kids. You're always compared. You know, he's doing better, she's doing better. Look at you, you're not doing so well. Always competing. And that extends to university, that extends to jobs. You're in a job situation, you always have to compete. You might even have annual report on how well you're doing. It's designed to make you feel that you need to do better than others. You need to compete. You need to bring yourself, to that level where you're always efficient, So in our Western society is always competing. We need to compete with each other for our local resources. So this is what I call it, competing for our local resources. So we are not allowed to relate to each other. If we relate to each other, we're not going to be as efficient at work. We might actually organize ourselves better and, stand against authority. The things that are happening right now with, curbing of the free speech and the so-called democracy and so on, Western values, where people are being cancelled, history is being cancelled and changed, Anyway, this is what I wrote a few years ago, and I titled it "For All the Loners Out There." Know without a doubt that you are never alone, not really. For your soul is always within you and near you, connected to the Mother Spirit, the greater soul. To test this, realize there is your thinking, the daily concerns of survival, and there is also something else. Underneath your head chatter, the living feminine mystery of intuition, your soul connected to its interconnecting us all and all things web of greater soul. Speaking to you from between two thoughts, between two steps, from where your guidance and inspiration flow, that ringing in your ear, announcing an inspiration. I've done a whole video on the ringing in your ear, A lot of people have this experience of ringing in the ear just before they receive an information or something you have thought about in your mind. And you might have an answer to it. And it's the right answer that suddenly occurred to you. A ringing in your ear. Oops, I just touched the camera. A ringing in your ear will announce this. Another reason there is a ringing in your ear is because it's actually announcing that you're downloading information, let's say from the soul, from the spirit, an answer or something that you need to know. There will be a ringing in your ear. Depends, sometimes left ear, sometimes right ear. A ringing in your ear announcing an inspiration or a sudden explosion of insight you were looking for that stops you in your tracks and makes you gaze into nothing while your inner voice says, "No need to keep looking, I am already here," the soul in your heart. Through me, you are connected to the invisible community of all the seeds in my single cosmic tree. And know that although on the surface it might not feel like it, underneath you are never alone, always one with my all. See? You are always one, always with this mystery. But like I said, most of the time these things will reveal themselves in the moments of danger, like this soldier had during war. His life was on the line. So that's when it revealed itself, and usually reveals itself in these moments of danger. You might be crossing a street and you haven't looked properly, and a car might be on its way to hit you. Then there might be a voice, something sounding an alarm to you, and you look around and there's not going to be a living soul around you, but there is a voice. It might not sound like it is coming from within you only. It might be coming from outside, but there is a voice telling you to be careful, or giving you specific instructions, do this, 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 and the other. I have made lots of videos about this specific instructions that come through and give you information at the moment when you need it most. This comes not only as a voice during the day, but it also comes as a voice in your dreams, for instance. Very often in your dreams will come as a voice. So it's a very wide, it's a very known phenomenon. This inner voice. So in poetry is you have this inner voice actually speaking through poetry. It's not so much that the person, the poet, that is saying these words, but this spirit, this other dimension is speaking through the person, through the poet. Like Rumi, you were born with wings. Why do you prefer to crawl through life? That is something that is actually speaking through him. So sometimes the voice, sometimes this, inner voice will speak directly in its own voice. Sometimes it will speak through you, through your voice. So that's why it's important to understand that you're not alone. You are never, never alone, but you need to pay attention to these things. You need to be open to your, if you don't remember your dreams, that's fine, but there are things that occur on daily basis around you. Might be a knock somewhere on a window that scares you, frightens you. If you live alone, who's knocking on your window? Not necessarily that there's someone out there, trying to get into your house, break into your house, but it's actually something to trying to get your attention. That it's there, you can communicate with me, it's fine, you're never, never alone. There are lots of stories like this. Another story that I can tell you is, that was years and years ago, and it was the middle of the night. I was still living in Perth, Western Australia. This is the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock. A lot of big dreams initially come at about 3 o'clock at night. And I woke up and I see this figure, this female figure, this woman dressed all in white. She's hovering above me, and I'm awake from the dreams, she's hovering above me. And she has a message for me, so this is not something that I'm necessarily hearing in my dream. This is real, this is happening. And she's hovering there, she looks at me and she says, Marek, don't lose the spirit. And I will show you everything you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? Don't lose your, don't project your psychic energy, your life force onto outside things. Focus on me, incubate it inwards, and I will always show you what you're looking for. Intuitively, I will always help you. I will always be there with you. That is so important to know, especially now, like I said, in our Western society where there's a pandemic of loners out there. I see it every day. People are, especially the older people, are pushed away because they're no longer productive. In Western society, if you're not productive, there's no use for you. They throw you away. And so there's the family structure is broken down as well. So kids don't visit the parents. So elderly people usually just live alone. They might have pets that keep them company, but humans, where I grew up in Eastern Europe, the family structure is still strong. And I don't know what it's like now, but back then, no one threw away the elderly. The elderly lived with us. My grandma, both of my grandmas, I still remember, I was raised till I was in my early teens, till I was 12, 13 years old, by my grandma. Both of my parents were working. So, that kind of social structure, family structure is broken down in the West. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to communicate to you today, that you're never alone. no matter what happens, and no matter how hard you feel that you're, you have to fight this fight in life alone, you're not. But if you turn inward, honestly turn inward, something will come, or help will come. Yeah, you can count on this inner voice that comes through. Okay, I'll speak to you next time. Bye.